communication is just as stimulating as black coffee and just as hard to sleep after. Let's have a black coffee and enjoy this presentation till your last sip. I am Syed Riyad, serving various institutions and colleges from the last 30 years. Presently, I am working as lecturer in management in Jubilee Industrial College. Communication is around us. Every one of us involved in interpersonal communication with colleagues, with customers, team leaders, managers, subordinates, teachers, students and siblings at home. And the list goes on never ending. During this pandemic, virtual communication, digital communication, social media and computer-based communication has gained a lot of momentum. Conferences, seminars, presentations through webinars has become common nowadays. While communicating at the workplace, we used to commit a lot of mistakes in our corporate life and personal life, which will end up in greater embarrassment. Without wasting much of your time, let us move to 13 mistakes we used to commit during communications and how to avoid it. Mistake number 13, conflicting assumptions. This is a very common mistake made by couples, teachers, superiors and parents. If one assumes that communication is flowing as intended, one continues to move on further without seeking feedback. This is just like a one-way traffic, as many of us used to lecture without focusing on the interaction of students. And we think that the student has understood 100% without taking any feedback. Conflicting assumptions can confuse communicator and cause ineffective communication. Some of the examples of the conflicting assumptions: a student brings wrong assignment and says to the teacher, "I think it was that." A secretary in the office takes a wrong memo, sometimes wrong file, wrong data to his manager, and he seeks a pardon by saying, "I think this was the file, sir." A team leader provides wrong information to his manager and say, "Sorry, I thought." For me, the most embarrassing word in communication is "I think." Good managers, team leaders and teachers used to seek verbal and non-verbal feedback to avoid conflicting assumptions. How to avoid conflicting assumptions? Be patient when listening to someone and let them finish their thought or message. It is important to ask questions when you are feeling upset or stressed, when you are not sure what the other person intended or meant in their communication. Asking open-ended questions like, "I am not sure what you mean by that. Could you please explain?" is important to guard against negative or inaccurate assumptions. Number 12, semantics. Semantic is the science of the meaning of the words and symbols. Words mean different things to different people. Words have its own science. Words alone will not have proper meaning. A word may be interpreted differently in different industries. Medical professionals use the word virus to define coronavirus, whereas the IT people use word virus to define a bug in the computer. A good example of semantic is the word fix. It has different meaning in the different context. A student is asking the teacher, "I want to go and fix my car." Here it means repair. Whereas you are over speeding near the checkpoint and catched by the traffic police, and the police gave you a ticket. Immediately you call your uncle, who is also a captain in the police department. After listening to your uncle's call, the captain says, "Don't worry, I will fix it." Here it means nullifying, not penalizing. Sometimes a teacher like me got annoyed with the backbencher who is using mobile all the time and sleeping. So the teacher like me used to say sometimes, "I will fix you in the final exam. That means what? Here it means I will see that how you will pass in the exam. The word is same, but the facial expression and the gestures are different. So that is why words must be carefully chosen for effective communication. Medical professionals use the word virus to define coronavirus, whereas IT people use it to talk about the dreaded, bug in the computer. So that's why the semantics plays a very important role in our communication. Number 11, perception. It deals with mental and sensory processes used to interpret information. People often perceive the same situation in different ways. Perception is the processing, interpreting, selecting and organizing of information. Perception's effect on the communication process is all about how the same message can be interpreted differently by different people. No two people are same. It is proved by science. 1 in 1 billion DNA matches. For example, in this presentation, my perception is totally different from the perception of all the participants. I may think today I have given an excellent presentation. If I want to know where I am standing, I need to ask individually their honest feedback so that I can know where I am standing. When they are giving their feedback, I can find maybe for 50% of the people I may be an average presenter. For 25% may be excellent. For another 25% I may be a very boring guy. How to avoid perceptual error? This is a common mistake with many young employees. After joining new organization and working hard, their perception stands that they will get excellent in their performance appraisal. When the appraisal comes, it is good or very good. A perceptual error. When a manager is communicating with employees, he should not perceive that his action and word will be exactly perceived by his subordinates. Difference in perception will occur between young and old employees. Proper feedback is the most effective method for reducing differences in perception. Number 10. Emotions before and during communications. Emotions such as anger, joy, sorrow, fear, and panic can affect the communication process by affecting our disposition to send and receive information. Emotions will affect directly our communications. That's why we should not take any decisions when we are in high emotions. How to overcome emotional barrier? Communication during period of high emotions such as anger and joy to be avoided. People with good communication skills manage their emotions smartly with patience and perseverance. Number 9. Culture and subculture. Culture and subculture. Different cultures, whether they are societal culture of a race or simply the work culture of a company, can hinder developed communication if two different cultures clash. In these cases, it is important to find a common ground to work from. In work situation, identifying a problem and coming up with a highly efficient way to solve it can eliminate cultural or institutional barriers. Quite simply, people like results. Work culture in government department or military organization is totally different compared to the manufacturing industry. Again, the work culture of manufacturing industry such as automobile industry or oil and gas industry is totally different from IT industry. You cannot expect Google culture in steel industry or automobile industry or maybe petrochemical industry. We can expect Google culture in IT giants such as Facebook, Microsoft, etc. People joining from different industries face cultural issues in communicating with each other. That's why while recruiting, employers ask industry-specific experience. Number 8, language of the communicator. Language of the communicator seems pretty self-inherent and it is built in our personality. But there are often hidden language barriers that we are not always aware of. If you work in an industry that is heavy in jargons or technical language, care should be taken to avoid these words when speaking with someone else from outside the industry, such as clients or customers. Here, language doesn't mean English language or French language or Japanese language. Within the English language, you have some categories: civilized or uncivilized way of talking. How we speak at home with the family should be totally different in the workplace also. Sometimes out of control or by slip of a tongue, people use slang or abusive language at workplace, and the respondent warns the sender by saying, "Mind your language, please." Proper care of language beautifies your communication, and you will be recognized as a civilized person in the workplace as well as in any society. Number 7, psychological distraction. Psychological distraction, sometimes we refer to it as personal barriers, occurs because of attitudes towards a race, sex, or socio-economic status. It is inbuilt in our personality that is always hidden, and most of us are prey to it. It is pretty much existing within the individual. Sometimes you can call it as selective perception. People tend to listen to read only the things they like. It is a feeling of emotionally separated. This is a human tendency that our minds have been programmed in such a way that we determine not to listen to particular people in our life, maybe a colleague at workplace, relatives, spouses, or siblings. People do not want to listen to them even though they give sometimes heavenly advice. Experts say that the factors influencing selective perception includes previous experience, attitudes, conditioning, gender, age, race, and emotional state. Psychologists believe this process occurs automatically. If you are in any key position, you need to show a democratic attitude, forgetting your bias. Number 6, physical distractions. Physical distractions occur in our environment or surroundings in which the communication takes place, such as walls between two people at workplace, bad signals in mobile, obsolete computer for webinar or e-learning, creak sound of a nearby accident, unattended fire alarms, children's distractions if you are working from home, faulty furniture, or badly designed home office. Well, I remember one of our conference room, whenever we used to have regular meetings, people try to avoid faulty chairs as they cannot focus on meetings. Whether it is your home or maybe office, you need to design your chairs ergonomically based on your height, weight, and physiological deformity such as back pain, shoulder pain, etc. so that your communication should be out of distraction. Whenever I am recording YouTube video at home, I have to turn off my AC as it is giving me diesel generator sound and spoiling my video. Number 5, passive listening. It means showing to the people, listening but not comprehending anything or not participating at all. Some good examples: if you have a difficult manager, you tend to listen to him without any argument. It is one-way communication. Communication to be effective, it should be always two-way communication. Nowadays, it has become a fashion listening to the webinar and busy at the work on your PC. Working women logging onto the computer during a meeting and doing household chores. In e-learning, students just keep on logged in to Blackboard Ultra or Zoom and busy in other activities. Listening to mother or father on phone and browsing Facebook account with some other guy or girl. One of the reasons for passive listening is information overload. One should be an active listener. How we communicate in workplace. If you see this diagram, 23% we used in other activities, 22% we use in speaking, and 55% we use in listening. Researchers found that most of us spend about 55% of our time in listening. Active listening involves identifying the speaker's purpose, identifying the speaker's main idea, and noting the speaker's tone as well as his body language, and respond to the speaker with appropriate comments, questions, and body language. That's why in management it is said a good manager is a good listener, and it applies to everybody in the workplace as well as at home. And the analogy applies to everybody. A good teacher is a good listener, a good student is a good listener, a good father is a good listener, a good son is a good listener, and a good spouse is also a good listener. That's why active listening is most important in workplace as well as life at home. Number 4, feedback. Feedback is the flow of information from back and forth between sender and receiver. Good listening skills at both the ends will make it more effective. Effective feedback, both positive and negative, sometimes critical, is helpful to others. Sometimes we are seeking feedback, positive feedback or negative feedback. Even the negative feedback, critical feedback is also very much important. If some of my friends are criticizing my video and giving me some constructive feedback, I will be more than happy so that I can improve it further. So feedback, positive, maybe negative, it is very much required in any area for that matter. Within the feedback, you will find partial feedback and full feedback. Let me illustrate what is partial feedback and what is full feedback. For instance, at the end of the class, if I ask my student with a thundering voice, understood, I will get response in many ways. Some will nod their head. It gives a confusing reply whether they understood it or not. Sometimes they used to respond me with a very low voice in shyness. Yes. Sometimes some of the students, they will say yes, looking to the clock because they want to pick up coffee. If I want to take full feedback, I need to ask each and every student, could you tell me what do you mean by semantics? Give me some examples. Could you explain what is feedback? Give some examples. What is effective feedback? Give some reasons. If I am asking the student, that we call it as a recapitulation. That is why at the end of each class, 10 minutes recapitulation is very much important for the teachers to take what you call full feedback. But it depends on the ratio of the students and teachers. If you have big number of class, taking full feedback is very difficult. If you have smaller classes like 20 students, 10 students, you can take full feedback. I like travel agents. They have been trained to give full feedback to the customers. If you happen to book a ticket with the travel agent, they used to explain you everything from booking of a ticket, and they will highlight everything and they will explain your flight is going from this destination to this destination, and this is the time you have to pick up the flight, and this is the city, and they used to highlight the PNR number and they used to repeat the flight number, timings, day, date many times, because they have been trained by the travel companies to give full feedback to the customers. On the other hand, the customer is also taking full feedback from the travel agent. He asked many times, repeatedly he used to ask, so that he should not, miss the flight. How effective feedback should be? Effective communication is a two-way process. Information must move back and forth many times. Feedback is the flow of information from the receiver to the sender. In feedback, receiver is important. Students in case of teaching, customers in case of negotiation. Feedback, it is specific rather than general. Dominating words understood or a bullet train speed in communication spoils your beauty in communication. It is focused on behavior rather than on the person. It is not speaking to the walls. There should be a behavioral change on the receiver. When you talk, a facial expression, eye contact, and applaud from the receiver is must. Focus on the need of the receiver of the feedback. Feedback can be destructive when it serves only your own needs and fails to consider the need of the person on the receiving end. It is solicited rather than imposed. Means this is also a common mistake with managers, teachers, couples, and parents. For example, a team leader approaches his manager to ask something about his present project. A busy manager not listening properly, instead handing over another project. Please pick up some more coffee. I have just left with 3 more slides. Mistake number 3, paralanguage. Paralanguage includes pitch, tempo, loudness, and hesitation in verbal communication. When we are communicating, loudness gives different meaning, hesitation gives different meaning in verbal communication. And paralanguage beautifies your language. Non-verbal communication is an effective way of communicating emotions. People normally use paralanguage multiple times per day and are sometimes not even aware they are doing so. The ability to interpret this kind of human communication correctly is considered as important competency in both personal and professional settings. Even silence comes under paralanguage. If a speaker changes even one of the aspects, the resulting meaning can be quite different to the listeners. For example, if you are talking to your son or daughter with high voice, or a manager is talking in anger with high voice to his subordinate, if the receiver is silent, he is showing a respect. It is a mark of respect to the father or to the manager at the workplace. This is communication. Silent itself is also a communication. The guy, maybe the son, maybe the subordinate, he is giving respect to the father or to the manager. This is a paralanguage. As I told you before, if a teacher is asking the student with a thundering voice, understood, is totally different from asking, did you understand? The latter will elicit more attention of the students. This type of communication is also known as meta communication. Example of meta communication: you are passing by someone else and you said, nice to see you, but not standing for a moment and not focusing on his eyes gives a lower level of gratitude. This type of communication, we call it as a meta communication. Mistake number 2, information overload. Information overload, also known as infobesity, information anxiety and information explosion, is the difficulty in understanding an issue and effectively making decision when one has too much information about that issue. When you are dealing with too much information, it impacts your ability to make decisions and remain productive. With flooding emails, reports, projects, never-ending meetings, social media and more, it becomes very difficult to manage and make us slower, and it comes to decision making and may damage employee performance also. Steps in dealing with information overload. There are 4 steps we are going to discuss. Identify the sources. First, identify from where information is overloading, such as different emails, unnecessary ads, social media, unnecessary reports, etc. Filter the information. Filter the information coming in by creating email rules to push incoming emails into separate folders for you to review later. Create sound filing structure. Get rid of magazines, papers and lengthy report to read while commuting or during long breaks. Make time to review it. Review all information before the end of every weekend. Prioritize your information into 4 categories: urgent, important, needed and unnecessary. Act on or delete it. During your review time, your plan should be to act on it or delete it. Your action could be deal with it now or add to your to-do list. It is a best practice to maintain a to-do list for the remaining important tasks. The last mistake that we are going to discuss is netiquette. Today we are surrounded with digital communication such as emails, blogs, wikis, social networking, Facebook, WhatsApp, Twittering, so on and so forth. If proper etiquette is not followed in digital world, we will be ridiculed in public. We need to follow certain self-discipline in etiquette. Number 1, respect other people's time and bandwidth. Don't forward everything because you like it. Make it as a best practice to check official email daily and respond to the concerned people well in time. Create proper subject line. Avoid generalization such as in the email. Don't write subject as regarding, attention, sale. Be very specific. It will save receivers time. Limit use of acronyms, emoticons and emojis in official correspondence. Be brief and to the point. Don't use capital words or red color in your email message. It is a sign of disrespect to the receiver. Avoid flaming on emails, blogs and social networking. Make yourself look good, gentle and civilized online. Good luck. Do you have any strategies not covered here? I love to hear from you in the comment. Please share your valuable comments.